Well, hello, chat. It's Welsh Lady here. How are you, my lovelies? I'll try not to say that so much. It's nice to be here with you. I was very, very happy with some of your wonderful comments you left me on my last video. Thank you so much. You know who you are, but I can name a few because, there's only a few just yet. Hopefully there'll be more and we'll have more laughs. But Melissa P, you're a darling, Reverend Beezy, Greeners. Oh, you're all just amazing. And I have to say a big thank you, because the only reason people want me to read to them is because they heard me on another channel phoning in. And that's the channel Recovery Addict. And if I can get anyone who is not from Recovery Addict and subscribed to go and subscribe to him, I ask you to do that, because he allowed me on his platform to talk about trials. I love criminal trials. I love to learn about the law. I know that from Wales, but our systems are not too different. So I basically called in one day and I had this so lovely amount of comments, and I was overwhelmed. And I genuinely mean it. All these comments about my voice. And now, like I said in my first video, can you read this? And can you read that? Oh, I could sit all day. And I just thought I could sit all day with you as well. You're so nice. You were so kind. And you were so special. In each of your own little ways, you have things about you. And I thank you for becoming an internet friend of mine. I'm not quite sure what we... Online friends then. Yeah, online friends. I thank you for your kindness. But today I thought, what shall I read today? And I thought maybe if I slowed it down a little bit, and I'll go back and I'll read more of the short stories, because I did find them very funny. But I thought I would read something that meant something to me when I read it. And it's a book, and it's based in Wales. It's not far from me, actually, but in the valleys. And it's just like going back in time. And so I know Wales is known for its greenery. Yeah, greeners, you like that one now? It's known for its greenery. It's known for its greenery, and it's known for its rain, right? There's no doubt. We get a lot of rain. We do. And it's known for our sheep, but that's not true. What they say about our sheep isn't true. We love our sheep. They're family. Right? Anyway, this book really, really captures a bit of the Welsh spirit. And maybe if I thought maybe if I gave it a go and I tried to read a few pages, maybe that would be a good starter. And then you can let me know in the comments what you think about it and whether you'd like me to continue to read it. So, I'm sat here now. Actually, I'm not sat. I lie. I'm led you. I'm in my bed. I'm not gonna lie. I'm in my bed. I have my little light on by the side of me. And I have my book. And I have Poppy, who is my cat. And she's a darling. And I have Colin. And Colin is my dog. Well, he's jointly owned between me and my daughter. And I say jointly owned, basically she owns him, but we both look after him. And I will say that because he is still a dog too. We love our Colin, so we are Mam 1 and Mam 2, right? That's what we are, we're family, right? A bit like the sheep, okay? But even closer, like Colin is settled down nicely to sleep. He's a little Italian greyhound. You've probably seen pictures of him. I'll probably put some on here too. And then there's Poppy as well. And it's just us chat. It's just us. And we can just chill out. Or we can put the earbuds in our ears and take ourselves to work and laugh along. And our colleagues wondering what the hell we're laughing about. Or whatever, whatever you're doing. Right? There's no rush. There's no rush. We can just take our time and try it out. And you let me know what you think. Please can you press the like button and the subscribe button and the bell button and so many buttons, man. Likey, subscribey, ring the belly. Yeah, the knobby things, right? The things that are like the cringy things. Just if you could do those for me, that would be lovely. Because I like to reply to your comments as well. Because you do mean a lot. Because you're very kind people. Okay, so let's take a look at this book now, right? So, I'm pulling it up now, right? And I'm going to get the introduction up. So, this book is called The Tent, The Bucket, and Me. That's right. I'll do a little bit of commentary in between. You know me now. I think you're getting to know me anyway. So, I like to put my little flavour in there. So, this is what we'll do. So, it says Introduction. The idea for this book came about when my mother asked me about 2 years ago whether I would like to go on holiday with her and my dad. I refused immediately, swearing that I would never go on holiday with them ever again. That might seem harsh, but my experiences of holidays as a child in the 70s were so dogged with ill luck, it beggars belief. It put me off camping for life. As we laughed about the dreadful things that happened to us, it struck me that I wanted to write these stories down. And so I began the long process of interviewing my parents about family holidays. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? So, yes, she said, I was amazed by how much we were collectively able to remember. My father had an extraordinary memory for tiny details. My mother for conversations. And the more we talked about our experiences, the more we were able to recall. Are you having to make anything up? That's the question I have been asked repeatedly since starting this book. My reply was, and always has been the same. Sadly not. In fact, I wish I had. Everything you are about to read happened. Some names and place names have been changed, and that's only because my mother made me. Yeah, my mum would make me do that as well. But that's it. I hope you enjoy the book and that all your holidays are nothing like ours. So that's the introduction. So I think I'm going to start and do the prologue and see how we get on. Okay. Are you all listening? Oh, is this funny? All right. It's like some people are getting up for breakfast and some people are going to bed. So, okay, the prologue in which the world and the universe throws down the gauntlet. I was conceived amidst the smell of a damp canvas on stony ground. My life had clattered into the universe on a honeymoon between two parents who had no business being married. My parents consummated their happy day on a campsite in Corby. I was unplanned. My life had begun in a tent. Oh, you don't want to hear about your parents consummating, mind you. But their life began in a tent. If we were living in ancient Greece, the fates would have thrown their arms up in horror. What my destiny to be forever entwined with guy ropes, thick, rusty zips, and a pervading aroma of mildew? Or would I, like the heroes before me, be able to surmount the dreadful cards I'd been dealt? If I embarked on an eternal holiday-based struggle, then one day, if the gods gave me the thumbs up, I might reach the heady peaks of staying in a caravan with a toilet that actually flushed. Oh, you've got to have a toilet that flushed. Imagine that, she says. But I had a long way to go before I reached those blessed shores. My tent trials were only just beginning. The wedding of my parents had caused something of a stir in the small Welsh mining village of Trehubert. I know where Trehubert is. Sitting at the top of the Rhondda Valley, the village was typical of the area. Mining was its beating heart, and small, Poppy, are you on a wild one, going running up and down the hallway? Full moon? Quiet now, please. Trying to read by ear. Thank you. Mining was its beating heart, and small tight terraces squashed themselves into knots at the base of the mountains. Now, for those listening, terraced houses, I have heard to other people in other countries, are quite unheard of. So you might want to look at terraced houses up on Google or something, just so you've got a bit of a vision of what terraced houses are like. To us, they're just normal. They're here, you know. This is how streets are lined with them. So, yeah, something like I noticed that came up once in a conversation. So, I don't know where I was. I've lost my place already. Oh, I'm never going to make it through this, am I? Oh, right. Okay. Mining was its beating heart, and small, tight terraces squashed themselves into knots at the base of the mountains. Wales's major industry was on its last legs, but that was the furthest thing from anyone's mind on a sunny day in August 1966. England had just won the World Cup. Oh, gosh, me. I bet they loved that. England had just... Hey, now, my English friends, you know it's only banter. You know it's only banter. I love you, really. But I bet you did love it. And you tried to rub our faces in it. Yeah, England had just won the World Cup. And one of Tre Herbert's favourite sons had returned to get married and show off his new bride. It should have been a day of joyous celebrations, but instead, the happy couple was greeted with incredulous stares. The bride was dressed in black. And no one knew why. Is it because she's English? My Aunt Gwenny had asked in a whisper. Is it true she's a feminist? Mumbled a neighbour standing on a flagstone step to get a better look. A suggestion that was beaten down with a flurry of hand gestures and urgent shushing. The small crowd gathered outside my grandmother's house couldn't believe their eyes. They'd already thrown confetti at the wrong person. My mother's younger sister Phyllis, who had come dressed in white, oh, you don't do that at a wedding, and was now standing flicking tiny bits of paper off herself and looking mortified. Well, you deserve it, Phyllis. My mother, who only 30 minutes previously had been declaring that she wasn't going to get married, was a huge black Spanish mantilla and looking the perfect picture of misery. Why can't you be normal? Phyllis wailed in her upstairs bedroom. This is so embarrassing. Phyllis, snapped my mother. Brenda, who was in no mood for platitudes. I am not getting dressed in white. I will not bow to the patriarchal expectations of society. I am wearing black in solidarity for all women suffering at the hands of men. Then why are you even getting married? Cried her sister. All right then, declared my mother suddenly. You're right. I'm not going through with it. That's it. Wedding's off. But I've got dressed now, whined her sister. And Margaret Evans told me if you didn't marry Tony, then she would. And she sleeps with firemen. Fuck her then, replied my mother. And that was that. My mother stood dressed in black. Oh, chat, I'm sorry for the F-bomb. My mother stood dressed in black outfit to a deafening silence that was only broken when my father's brother-in-law, Roy, came out to do the scramble, a valley tradition where pennies are thrown into the streets for children to collect. As the children scurried around her, jostling for coins, my mother began the short walk to the Welsh Baptist chapel, where she would be wed, cheered on by nothing but audible gasps. She had refused flowers, and had no one to walk her up the aisle. She was nothing if not determined. My father, on the other hand, had been quietly looking forward to his big day. Even if the ring he'd got for his fiancée had been thrown down a cobbled street only 3 days previously. He chased after it, of course, but it only cost him £3. But he also knew that within 5 minutes his wife-to-be, volatile at the best of times, would have changed her mind back again. Tony was a simple fellow, the 6th child in a family of 7. Oh, gosh, imagine. Big families back then, see. He had grown up in a squashed proximity with his siblings, sharing a bed with 3 of his brothers, and because he was the artistic one, spending most of his mornings having to draw lines up the sisters' legs to replicate stockings. As the youngest boy, he had been saved from having to work down the pit and was the only member of his family to have gone to college and left the valley. That's lovely. Yeah, it's sad to think we used to have children go down the pit. He went to college. That's good. Well done, Tony. He was the one who got away, but now he was back, and it wasn't quite the triumphant return he'd been hoping for. Not a single member of my father's family mentioned the bride in black, a sure sign that everyone was appalled. Not only that, but with my grandfather, the minister at the chapel where they were getting married, he was the minister. The fact that the bride was dressed for a funeral was a source of deep embarrassment. In a last-ditch attempt to bring a sense of normality to the proceedings, my grandfather slipped the organist a couple of bob and told him to play anything, even though my mother had been quite adamant that there should be no music. She walked up the aisle on her own to Handel's Scipio, Black Mantilla billowing around her. The congregation was stunned. My father just smiled. The sooner this was over with, the better. Contrary to appearances, my parents were very much in love. They had even met 11 months previously at a school in Bedfordshire. My mother, who looked like a Spanish version of Julie Christie, had trained to be an English teacher. When she walked into the staff room for the first time, my father's eyes popped out on stalks at first sight, and he turned to his friend Mike, the head of PE, and literally said, "She's mine." I can imagine that. She's mine. But there was a slight problem. My mother was engaged, to someone else. And she hated Welsh accents, well, she bloody would have hated me, wouldn't she? She hated Welsh accents. Oh my gosh. If you don't like the Welsh accent, they degrade, honey. Well, I can understand that. There's many accents great on me as well, but, well. So my father, being a shy sort of fellow, didn't make his move straight away. Instead, he confided in another female teacher, Grace, told her that he quite liked the look of the new English teacher, sat back and waited for the gossip to trickle in her direction. He's not stupid, is he? So Brenda, said Grace, over a Tupperware-filled box with homemade egg sandwiches, "What do you think of Tony? Do you like him?" Replied my mother with a shrug. "He's all right." "Tony," declared Grace, running up to him in the corridor, "I've got a tree in my back garden that needs cutting down. You wouldn't come over on Sunday and give Joe a hand with it, would you? I'd be ever so grateful." "Sure," said my father. "I'll bring over a few beers." "Brenda," shouted Grace 5 minutes later, "if you're not doing anything this Sunday, do you want to come round to ours? Tony's over to help Joe cut down the tree in the back. We'll have some beers, yeah?" "Lovely," said my mother. The trap was set, and the sequence of events that would lead to my birth had been thrown into motion. My entire existence was down to a dead tree and a 6-pack of beer. You can make of that what you will. The weather that Sunday was unusually pleasant. And as if my father pulled off his shirt and hurled over an axe, oh my gosh, I got visions. You can see it, can't you? It's the muscly man with the big axe, you know. Vexing, is that what they call? No, flexing, that's it, flexing. I'd be vexing. The weather that Sunday was unusually pleasant, and my father pulled off his shirt and hurled an axe over his head. My mother couldn't help but stay. Despite her best efforts, watching Tony ripping up a tree from its roots is quite thrilling. Her fiancé, a bookish fellow called Malcolm, oh well, he's called Malcolm. She has to get rid of him. As a joke, no, there's nothing against you Malcolms out there. But anyway, her fiancé, a bookish fellow called Malcolm, was not given to displays of masculinity, and as the sweat trickled down my father's chest and his light blue eyes sparkled, my mother realised, with a degree of horror, that she fancied him rotten. One arm tickled, and a considerable snog in the front seat of a blue Morris Minor later, and my mother knew she was in trouble. Malcolm's got halitosis, declared Phyllis, putting her cards of preference firmly on the table. Plus Tony brought Mummy a sack of onions and coal. Don't forget the coal, mind. 4 months down the line, Brenda still hadn't made her mind up. 4 months! She waited 4 months to make up her mind, playing two off each other. She was naughty, Brenda, wasn't she? Brenda still hadn't made up her mind whether it was going to be Tony or Malcolm. She would spend the week with Tony and the weekend with Malcolm. How she got away with it was anyone's guess, but at Christmas, at home with her mother and sister, with time to think things through, she knew she had to make a decision. Torn between her fiancé and the man she couldn't keep her hands off, she turned to her sister for help. Phyllis, blunt as ever, was in no doubt. Tony was the best prospect. He was the better prospect. Does Malcolm's breath really smell? Asked Brenda, chewing her bottom lip. It bloody stinks, said Philip. I said, Philip, her name's Phyllis. It bloody stinks, says Phyllis. And he's got a wonky eye. Oh, God. Oh, goodness me. Oh, God. Now, I'm a disabled woman, okay? I don't take a mick out of other people's disabilities. We're all disabled friendly here at Welsh Lady's place, okay? Well, but it was funny. And so on Boxing Day, wrapped up against the bitter wind, my mother walked through the snow to send my father a telegram. Bloody hell, a telegram? It was old. Bloody hell. Please come, it read. They were engaged the following day. My arrival came 9 months late. 9 months and 6 days after the wedding. The timing was so near the knuckle that my father's eldest brother, Gwyn, had taken him to one side and asked if the wedding had been a necessity. But despite all the suspicions to the contrary, my conception was above board and shipshape. My parents had been forced to take their honeymoon in the unromantic surroundings of Corby, a steel town in Northamptonshire, because they were both about to start work at one of the local comprehensives. For my American friends, that's like high school. Within 2 weeks, with 2 weeks to go before term started, they needed to find somewhere to live, and my dad, ever brimful with bright ideas, had suggested that they buy a tent and camp while searching for a council house. Oh, gosh. Oh, the tent in which I was conceived was a flash affair. Flush with a little extra cash from family and friends, my father had got overexcited and fallen victim to the tent shop salesman's easy charms. So instead of buying a small two-man ridge tent, Tony had come away the proud owner of a continental frame tent. Just come in from France, the salesman had said with a wink. Look at that, my dad said later, beaming. It's got a separate bedroom compartment. And we can stand up in it, squealed Brenda, because even she was impressed. They had spent their wedding night in a hotel in Cardiff, but a deafening military tattoo at the nearby castle had put any thoughts of romance on the back burner. As the windows rattled and the bed shook, my just-married parents sat propped up in the bed with cotton wool stuffed in their ears. The thought of leaving them the next day to spend their honeymoon in Corby wasn't quite the sharp thrill it might have been, but necessity dictated the circumstances, and besides, they were going camping. It would be fun, wouldn't it? The just-married couple had driven to the pretty village of Rockingham, on the outskirts of Corby, where honey-coloured stone cottages crept up a steel hillside towards the castle, perched at the top. There was one pub in the village, the Saunders Arms, and it was here, pints in hand, that my parents decided that they would be bold. Rather than drive about searching for a campsite, they would put up their tent in the first field they could find. Oh no. Oh no. An unseasonable bitter wind was blowing through Rockingham that night, but my parents, flushed with the just-married glow, didn't mind one bit. And finding a field that didn't have cows in it, my father set about the slightly arduous task of getting the tent erected. Now, that was the tent, mind. Right, no rudeness here now, mind. Having had a practice running the back garden of his still unmarried digs, my dad was confident that he knew what he was doing. But the practice run had been done in broad daylight, and with two mates helping him. Now he had to put up the tent on his own, in a pitch-black field, and with his new wife, staring on in the moonlight. As my dad grappled around on the grass, trying to work out what went where and whether he could find the pegs, my mother laid out the honeymoon feast that had been provided courtesy of a plastic bag from my grandmother. In it there was one small loaf of bread, a large lump of cheddar cheese, and 6 Welsh cakes. And that had been thrown in at the last minute by my father's sister-in-law Peggy. As they sat, shivering in 3/4 finished tent, with chunks of bread in their hands and taking bites out of the block of cheese because they'd forgotten to bring a knife, there was an air of innocent abandon. A new dawn was coming, and it was closer than they thought. You sure we don't need the inner tent? My mother asked, casting a look about her. Absolutely, said my father, putting an arm round her. The tent is totally fine without it. Why don't dads ever listen? When Dad omitted to tell her was that he forgotten to waterproof the tent, and that night, as their just-married passions reached a climax and my first spark of life burst into the universe, my mother looked up at my father and said, "Why am I lying in a pool of water?" It was an omen of things to come. Well, chat, that was the prologue. If you would like me to continue to read you the book that called The Tent, the Bucket and Me, I will do so. Give us a nod in the comment section, and share this out to people so we can get some more people around as well. I feel like you're all in my house. That's what I feel like. I got you all around my house and we all got our cup of tea. Because you got to have a cup of tea and a biscuit, not the American biscuits, a cup of tea and a cookie. Right, we love it. I just feel like you're all here in a story time together. And, why not? Life is hard. Sometimes we need some levity in our lives to lift us up and take us away from some of the darkness that is either in our personal life or what we're watching. And we just need to have that little cosy get together. Bloody hell, I'll be building a fire in the middle of my living room now. Right, I'm going to go now, chat. It's been lovely reading to you tonight, and I hope you have enjoyed it. Night-night now, my lovelies. You take care now. Ta-da!